Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a Q&A, some popular questions that I get asked, or frequently asked questions that I get all of the time from foster parents or foster parents to be, adoptive parents. So I wanted to share that with you guys today, so keep watching. Okay guys, so the first question is, sorry if I'm looking down, I've got them on my phone here. Can you work full-time and be a foster parent to young kids? 100% yes, you can. The way our agency works is they don't provide any daycare cost. If you are in the States, and let me know how your state runs it, leave me some comments below so I know, and you can help the other people watching this video that maybe not be from Canada. But the way our agency works is we have to pay for it out of our per diem. So essentially, if I were to work full-time, the per diem that I get to care for a foster child would go 100% to pay for their daycare, not leaving any extra for their expenses, their food, the cost of the water that it takes to bathe them and wash their clothes, and all of that stuff. So I would be losing money as a foster parent. Definitely don't foster to gain money. I've already made a video on that. If you work it down, it's like $1 something a day, or $1 something an hour. So if you're trying to care for children to make money, I would suggest opening your own home daycare. But yeah, you 100% can work. Our agency requests that you don't, but it's not like they're not going to place a child with you if you do. And the reason is that this child's already been through a lot of upheaval, so they want to keep things as even and as steady as possible. So if they're, you know, coming into your home, then going to daycare and then coming back to you and then having to visit their mom, it's just a lot of people kind of caring for them. But 100% yes. Especially in the States, I know you guys only get 6 weeks off for maternity leave. Here in Canada, we get a year, and I'm very thankful that we get that year. But I know in the States, it's a lot more of the norm, I would say, for foster parents to work full-time. Do they provide drivers? I don't know. Again, guys, leave me some comments below if you do work full-time so other foster parents can know. But 100% yes, you can work full-time or part-time. When I first started, I was still working part-time 2 days a week, and I had a nanny that came into our home to help out. But very, very quickly, I think we got our first placement in February, and by April, I had quit my job. We had 2 kids by then, and I had quit my job. So I don't not work, I still work. I work from home, and, you know, I blog and vlog, and that's part of what I consider work as well. Providing content for you guys. So working from home, I think, is a great alternative if you can do it. If not, 100% yes. The next question is, how do you get your family to support you when they don't necessarily agree? So this is a really great question. Just because you and your husband or you and your partner choose to foster does not mean that everybody in your immediate circle is going to support that. Most people think that it's a great thing, and, you know, I'm sure if you are a foster parent, you get those, "You're a saint, I couldn't do that," and, you know, all those kind of comments that quite honestly make me feel uncomfortable, but that's a topic for another video. But you can hope they can support you, but they might not necessarily support you. So what I suggest is you find support in the people that understand. Find a friend, connect. Our agency offers support groups. I would imagine most agencies do. So I go to a monthly support group, and I've created connections there that I now can text a friend, and, you know, there's that confidentiality between us. We get it. We get how foster care works, how the frustrations with the workers might be. We get all of that. So don't look for that in your immediate family and immediate circle of friends. For one, you have confidentiality barriers. You cannot tell your immediate family and friends much about the cases, right? You can't tell them. Obviously, I trust my mom. I tell her some things, but I don't tell her everything. And I can't tell her everything. And that's a confidentiality agreement that I've made with the agency to protect these children's privacy. Also, you might get things like, how do I put this politely without offending anybody? You also might get, like, if you explain kind of your child's case, you know, a friend or a family member might introduce that baby that you're caring for as, you know, this is a druggy baby and her parent is awful, and, you know, something that you've expressed in confidence to them, they have now shared, and now that's really broken your confidentiality agreement. So you have to be really careful with what you share with your immediate circle of family and friends. So my suggestion is to do not look for support in them. They can support you in other ways, emotionally, but You need to find other foster parents who get it and who understand the confidentiality agreement that you've taken, and find your support there. Next question is, do I have to drive the kids to all of the visits, appointments, etc., or does their social worker do that? So for our agency, they like if you do. They want you to. Of course, their resources are spread thin, but 100% we have help with drivers. So I always try to do the drives as much as possible, but sometimes I've had 2 kids from 2 different families and their visits conflict, and that's kind of stressful for me because I have to pick, which child is going to better benefit from me doing the drive, because when a child is going to and coming home from a visit, you may see a lot of emotions kind of come up. So that's an important reason why the foster parent and the person that they connect with should be the one driving to and from their visits, if possible. If you work, if their visits conflict with maybe your biological kid's sports schedule or whatever, obviously, yes, there's volunteer drivers for a reason. I know some private agencies. I was recently talking to a foster parent, and she's with a private agency versus a state or a provincial-based agency, and they really don't get much help with drivers. So she has to drive, and right now she's caring for children that are not in her area. So she's, 4 hours a day driving to, waiting for the child to have their visit, and driving home. Like, that's a big commitment. So just, if that's going to be a stumbling block for you, I would highly suggest before you become a foster parent, talking to your agency about the requirements of drivers. This, really affected me with our first little guy because I had committed to do the driving, not a big problem. They kind of say 1 or 2 visits a week, no big deal. But he also had 2 or 3 doctor's appointments, like weekly. I had to go to a regular doctor, a specialized doctor, and then the visits, like 4 days a week, I was driving half an hour away, waiting for the 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, whatever the appointment time may have took. I mean, his first few visits when we were seeing a pediatrician in the hospital who was on call, the one morning I was there for 5 hours. Another time I had to take him for a special test, and I had to bring my kids with me, and we were waiting around forever. So you do have to take that into consideration. Our social workers will do it. We had another little one whose mom made some medical allegations that I didn't see present. And she asked for a certain test to be done, which I knew was going to be like a day at the hospital, and I had 3 other children at home. So I said, nope, I'm not taking him to that. So his children's worker came and took him, and lo and behold, the test turned out to be, there was no signs of what mom was saying was happening. And this is not an allegation against me. This was, I guess I can say it. The mom was saying that the child was having seizures, and I never saw that in the whole time that child was with me. So she wanted to have a CAT scan done because she said that this child had seizures before, and it just didn't really sit right with me. A lot of biological parents kind of can pull some crazy antics. So I had the worker come and take that child to the appointment. The child was gone almost the whole day. I knew I couldn't do that with my 3 other children. And I wasn't going to pay for daycare for my 3 other children to go and take that child to this appointment because honestly, I thought the appointment was BS. And it turned out that in fact it was. But you always have to explore and investigate. And okay, next question. Do you have to be married or do you have to own a home? No, you do not have to be married to be a foster parent. And you don't have to be in a specific age range. So many foster parents are single, they're older, grandparents' age, same-sex couples, not legally married, common law relationships. If you have in your heart to love and care for a child, most agencies are going to work with you no matter what your background is. Of course, my husband and I are married. We're at the stage where we biologically have young children. So that area and talking of our home study went off quite smoothly. And maybe if you come from a different kind of past, you might have more to talk about in your home study. But 100% most agencies, unless you're with like a Christian-based agency, they might not necessarily... like a lot of Christian-based agencies require that you are Christian and married. But if you're with a public agency, they're pretty open to who you are as an individual as long as you love and care for and have the capacity to care for this child. And do you have to own a home? No, you do not have to own a home. You can rent a home. You do have to show that you can provide a stable home. So we had to provide our income and our budget and show that bringing a child into our home would not be a financial detriment to us. Yes, you get a per diem, like we've already discussed in an earlier question. However, you don't make money as a foster parent, and in a lot of cases you are actually spending your own money because you want to take your foster child on trips, and that those kind of things are not paid for by the agency, so that comes out of your own pocket. So they just want to show that bringing in another child is not going to be a financial detriment. So no, you don't have to own a home. You can rent, but you have to show that it is a stable home for them. All right. The next question is, how long is the process? So this can vary. I find because there's such a huge need for foster parents that more often lately, like, the process can be expedited. So I had a friend who the agency made some special arrangements for her, and she actually completed the course. Her and her husband completed the course and everything in like 2 or 3 weeks by the time she did the course at the same time as the home study. For us, the Pride training course was over 9 weeks. It was 1 evening a week for 3 hours that we had to go to for 9 weeks, plus an additional 2 weeks, so 11 weeks total. And they don't do your home study until the Pride is done. But there are definitely special circumstances. You can get it done privately and pay to get it done. We didn't pay to have our Pride training. It was provided for us by the agency. However, you can pay to get it done, and it can be a much quicker process. So I would say anywhere from about a month to a year. And depending on your home study, what comes up in your home study. I was talking to another foster parent this week who had some issues in her past that the person doing the home study said, we want you to do counseling, or we want you to wait another year and then reapply. So in that case, it can take a lot longer. That just all depends on your past. For us, everything was done. We had our first call in March. We could have had everything done by August, but because my husband was school at the time, we just couldn't commit to the spring training schedule. So we took the October training, and then our home study kind of was started right as we were finishing up our training and was done by Christmas. So it was 9 months total. We started in March and we were licensed by December 21st, 2015. That's crazy that it's been that long. And then we waited 2 months. We had a couple placements fall through, and we waited 2 months before we actually had our first placement in our home. He came the end of February. So I would say 6 months as a general guideline for that. Next question. How many foster children can you take in your home? Do they put a limit on it? For our agency, we're not allowed to take more than 4. They will make special circumstances say if you're taking a sibling group of 5. And yes, there are families in my agency that do that. But government standards here in Canada, or here in Ontario anyway, are no more than 4 children, and you can have no more than 2 under 2. And that includes if you have biological children in your home. So we only ever take 2 because we have 2 of our own, and 4 is all I can handle personally. Even 3 is a lot, because when you're taking into consideration a foster child's needs, they have a lot more needs than your average healthy biological child. So you do have to take that into consideration. But our agency, you can take up to 4. Next question. Does the agency pay for extracurricular activities? So the agency, yes and no. They have a budget for each child that they're allowed to kind of grant extra money for extracurricular activities. So for example, we've had a couple children that have done gymnastics, because my daughters do gymnastics, and it's not really fair for the foster child to have to sit and watch, and they're not able to do it because I can't necessarily afford to, the gymnastics studio, your gymnastics gym, whatever that my kids go to, is expensive. So to pay for another child, that's a lot of money for me, and unfortunately we just can't afford that. But the agency does provide and has paid for 2 of our children to be in gymnastics. Swimming lessons, we have a gym membership that includes swimming lessons, and because we already have a family of 4, additional children are free. When it comes to camps and stuff, there's grants, but there's certain amounts. So if you want to send your child to camp all summer, for example, if you have an older child, usually, like, our agency will pay for a couple weeks. Anything additional you have to pay for on your own. That includes daycare costs. Like I said earlier, they don't cover that. But there is some money in a fund to kind of play with. There's also money in a separate fund for certain therapies and things like that. So if you're considering that an extracurricular, not necessarily a sport or activity, but that is paid for by the agency. We had, our boys, when we had them, were super, super active, like bouncing off the walls, destroying my house kind of active. So they paid for a monthly membership to the indoor play park that we have local to us. So they paid for that monthly throughout the winter because they just saw how much activity these kids needed, and that was kind of, I guess, the cheapest way for them to do it without paying for them to be in all sorts of sports and activities. They paid for it for our family, which was really nice because we were able to take our family, you know, 2-3 times a week. We would go to the indoor play place and let the kids go wild and burn off some energy, and that was all paid for from the agency. So the answer is yes, but not completely. All right, I'm just going to do one more because this is getting kind of long. Do you have to have contact with the bio family? No, you do not have to have contact with the bio family, but if you don't want to have contact with the bio family, I would consider not getting into fostering. If there's safety concerns, then 100% you do not. If you're going for visits and stuff, our agency we have 2 agencies, like 2 buildings we work out of, and the worker will come out to the parking lot and get the child, or at the other agency, we actually have a whole separate entrance where we can drop off the child so they don't see, you know, our license plate, and they aren't able to look us up and find out where we live or anything like that. So you can have no contact. And in the beginning, the first few visits, especially with my first few placements, I didn't have contact with the bio family, but you know, I just think if my kids were taken from me, I would want to know who they were with and where they were, and that would give me peace of mind. So I very quickly made relationships with all of our bio families, and I think that's a huge part. You're not only supporting these kids and trying to help these kids, but you're supporting reunification, and you need to be available for the bio families and to be able to be, you know, connect with them. And all of our bio families have had my phone number, maybe not right off the bat. I do like to kind of get a feel for them and see if I see there's any risk of danger or anything like that. But they all do eventually get my phone number, and I text them. I have an email address specifically for communicating with bio parents, but usually I then will give them my number or whatever. You know, our boys at the second visit, she asked, I want to talk to my boys every night before bed, and I did do that. That was a lot. That was a lot to commit to, and I don't know if I would necessarily commit to that again, because I was trying to get 4 kids, 3 and under, down to bed, and then I would have to deal with this phone call every night, but that meant so much to her, right? That was her way of connecting with her kids and being able to, you know, count down and be able to tell them she loved them before bed, and she would read a story over the phone. You know, we both had a copy of the book. So 100%, no, you do not, but 100%, if you're considering being a foster parent, you need to be open to that. These people are not terrible people. These people have made bad choices. Let me say that again. These people are not terrible people. These people have made terrible choices. Are there some terrible people that scare me? Yes. None of my kids have had those type of parents, but they have been associated with some of those type of people, and the agency knows that, and they will protect you. But just know you can have as little or as much contact as you want. Outside of arranging meetings with them without the agency knowing, that's not really allowed. They want to know. But for example, like we had a birthday visit with one of our foster children, and I just got special permission from the agency, and I said I am totally fine to take the kids to McDonald's for lunch, you know, on the birthday, so that mom can spend some time. You don't have to supervise. I will be there. And, you know, the agency had enough of a relationship with them as well as I did, so we felt comfortable with that. But you can't, you know, just go behind the agency's back and give the mom extra visits or anything like that. That you could lose your license that way. So I'm going to leave it at that. This video is already getting really long. I hope that was helpful to you. If you have any other questions, please leave them down in the comments below, and I will do another frequently asked question video for you guys. But thank you so much for watching. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. Throw me some thumbs if you like this type of Q&A video, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Bye.